The F-47 is already the most advanced fighter jet America has ever built. But here's what almost nobody is talking about. Several of its most jaw-dropping features trace directly back to a secret concept that was quietly shelved over 2 decades ago. A tailless ghost of an aircraft that never flew, never fired a shot, and yet may have shaped the future of American air power more than anything else in history. That concept was called the X-44 MANTA. And today, we're breaking down the top 5 insane features of the F-47 that wouldn't exist without it. Introduction. Welcome back. If you love American military aviation and you believe the U.S. Air Force is still the most dominant fighting force in the skies, this one is for you. We're going deep today, not just on what the F-47 can do, but on where those capabilities actually came from. The story goes back further than most people think, and it's one that every proud American needs to hear. Drop a comment right now and tell us, did you ever think you'd live to see something more advanced than the F-22? Type next level in the comments. We read every single one. Now let's get into it. Because what the U.S. military has pulled off here is nothing short of extraordinary. Background: the X-44 MANTA story. Back in the 1990s, the U.S. Air Force and Lockheed Martin were working on something radical. Something that looked nothing like any fighter jet that had come before it. No tail, no vertical stabilizers, just a sleek diamond-shaped flying wing that seemed to defy everything engineers thought they knew about aircraft design. They called it the X-44 MANTA. The idea was simple but revolutionary. Remove everything that creates drag, everything that adds radar signature, everything that makes a fighter jet easier to detect and easier to shoot down. Strip the aircraft down to its absolute essentials and replace conventional control surfaces with something far more advanced: thrust vectoring. The ability to point the engine's exhaust in any direction and use raw engine force to steer the aircraft instead of flaps and rudders. It was bold, it was visionary, and then in the early 2000s, the program was quietly canceled. Most people thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Because 30 years later, when the U.S. Air Force unveiled the F-47, the crown jewel of the next generation air dominance program, engineers, analysts, and aviation experts began to notice something. The F-47 shared an almost uncanny resemblance to the ideas that powered the X-44. Not just in appearance, in philosophy, in capability, in the way it was designed to dominate the skies in ways no enemy could counter. And that is exactly what we're breaking down today. 5 features of the F-47 that carry the direct fingerprints of the X-44 MANTA concept. 5 reasons why that canceled program from decades ago may be one of the most important aviation projects in American history. Let's start with number 1. Feature number 1, the tailless design. When you first look at the F-47, one thing jumps out immediately. There is no traditional tail, no vertical fins sticking up, no horizontal stabilizers extending out the back. The aircraft has a clean, low-profile shape that hugs the sky rather than cutting through it. This was the central idea behind the X-44 MANTA. Traditional fighter jets use their tails for stability and control. The tail keeps the aircraft flying straight. It helps the pilot turn, pitch, and roll. Remove the tail, and on paper, you have an aircraft that should be nearly impossible to fly. The aerodynamics become unstable almost immediately. But the X-44 concept argued that this instability wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon. An aerodynamically unstable aircraft, controlled by advanced computers making thousands of micro adjustments every second, can change direction faster than any human pilot could manage on their own. It becomes unpredictable, harder to track, harder to lock onto. In a dogfight, unpredictability is survival. The F-47 takes this concept and runs with it at a level the X-44 designers could only dream of. With modern fly-by-wire systems and artificial intelligence assisting the pilot in real time, the F-47 can hold that unstable configuration and use it as a genuine tactical advantage. Every time it changes direction, it does so with a quickness and sharpness that makes older aircraft look slow by comparison. And here's the part that should make every American proud. While rival nations are still refining their fifth-generation jets, the U.S. is already flying something that leaves those jets looking like they belong in a museum. But the tailless design alone isn't what makes the F-47 truly untouchable. It's what that design enables that really matters. And that brings us directly to feature number 2. Feature number 2, stealth beyond anything we've seen before. Stealth technology isn't new. The F-22 Raptor was already considered nearly invisible to radar when it entered service. The F-35 took things even further with its low observable design built into every panel and rivet of the aircraft. But the F-47 operates on a different level entirely, and the X-44 MANTA concept is a major reason why. One of the core goals of the X-44 was to eliminate radar cross-section, not just through coatings and materials, but through shape itself. Every angle, every edge, every surface of the aircraft was designed to scatter radar energy away from the source rather than reflect it back. The tailless configuration was central to this because tails, fins, and stabilizers are some of the biggest radar reflectors on any aircraft. Remove them, and you remove a massive chunk of the aircraft's radar signature. The F-47 takes this geometry-first approach to stealth and combines it with the most advanced radar-absorbing materials the U.S. has ever fielded. The result is an aircraft that enemy radar systems simply struggle to see, even at closer ranges where older stealth jets might begin to show up. Think about what that means in a real conflict. An enemy air defense system that can't see you can't shoot at you. A surface-to-air missile that gets no radar lock never leaves the ground. The F-47 doesn't just survive in contested airspace, it operates there as freely as if the threat didn't exist. Now here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. If the X-44 had never been designed, if those engineers in the 1990s had never pushed the boundaries of what was possible, would the F-47 be the aircraft it is today? There's a strong case that the answer is no, and that makes what comes next even more remarkable. Feature number 3, thrust vectoring control. This is where the X-44 MANTA's most direct influence on the F-47 becomes crystal clear. Thrust vectoring is the ability to redirect engine exhaust to control the aircraft's direction. Instead of relying on traditional control surfaces, flaps, rudders, elevators, the aircraft steers itself by pointing its engines. It's the same basic principle behind how a rocket changes direction in space. The X-44 MANTA was specifically designed around multi-axis thrust vectoring. Because without a tail to provide stability, thrust vectoring wasn't optional, it was the only way the aircraft could be controlled at all. The concept called for nozzles that could redirect engine, exhaust up, down, left, right, and at angles in between, giving the aircraft three-dimensional maneuverability that no conventional jet could match. For the F-47, thrust vectoring serves a dual purpose. First, it gives the aircraft maneuverability that is simply in a different category from anything else flying today. In close-range combat situations, the ability to point the nose of an aircraft in any direction almost instantly is a decisive advantage. By the time an enemy pilot reacts to what the F-47 is doing, the engagement is already over. Second, and this is the part that connects directly to the stealth discussion, thrust vectoring allows the F-47 to maneuver without moving large external control surfaces. Traditional control surfaces create radar reflections and also generate heat signatures that infrared missiles can track. By minimizing the movement of those surfaces and relying more heavily on engine-directed control, the F-47 stays harder to detect even while executing aggressive maneuvers. The X-44 concept identified this connection between thrust vectoring and stealth decades before the technology existed to fully act on it. The F-47 is proof that the U.S. military never stopped working on that vision. And the next feature takes that vision even further into territory that is genuinely unlike anything in aviation history. Feature number 4, artificial intelligence integration. The X-44 MANTA was a concept born in an era before artificial intelligence was a practical tool for anything beyond basic computer functions. But the engineers behind it understood something crucial. A tailless thrust-vectored aircraft could not be flown by a human pilot alone. The control demands were too complex, the adjustments too constant, the margins too tight. They imagined a future where onboard computing systems would handle the moment-to-moment stability of the aircraft, freeing the pilot to focus entirely on the mission. A human-machine partnership where the computer kept the jet in the air while the pilot decided what to do with it. The F-47 doesn't just imagine that future, it lives in it. The artificial intelligence systems on board the F-47 do far more than maintain stability. They process battlefield data in real time. They identify threats faster than any human eye could. They manage sensor fusion, pulling information from radar, infrared, electronic warfare systems, and allied assets all at once, and presenting the pilot with a clear, prioritized picture of what's happening around them. In practical terms, this means an F-47 pilot walks into a fight knowing more about the battlefield than any fighter pilot in history. They know where the threats are before those threats know they're being watched. They can make decisions faster, engage targets more precisely, and disengage before an enemy can react. The X-44 concept planted the seed for this kind of pilot assistance philosophy. The idea that the aircraft itself should carry as much of the cognitive burden as possible, so the human being inside it can perform at their absolute best. That philosophy is now flying over American airspace in the most advanced fighter jet ever built, and it connects directly to the fifth and final feature, one that may define not just the F-47, but the entire future of air combat. Feature number 5, loyal wingman capability. Here's something that even a lot of military enthusiasts haven't fully digested yet. The F-47 is not designed to fight alone. One of the most forward-thinking aspects of the X-44 MANTA concept was its vision of networked air combat. The idea that future aircraft wouldn't operate as individual platforms, but as nodes in a coordinated fighting network, sharing data, dividing tasks, and supporting each other across the battlefield in real time. The F-47 brings that vision to life through what the U.S. Air Force calls collaborative combat aircraft, unmanned drones that fly alongside the F-47 in coordinated teams. The F-47 pilot can direct these aircraft like loyal wingmen. They can be sent ahead to probe enemy defenses. They can carry additional weapons, extending the F-47's firepower without adding weight to the main aircraft. They can act as decoys, drawing fire away from the manned jet. This is the most significant shift in air combat tactics in generations, and it traces directly back to the networked, cooperative approach that the X-44 concept was designed around. Think about what an enemy air force is facing when they encounter an F-47 strike package. They're not tracking one aircraft. They're trying to process an entire coordinated system, a manned jet they can barely detect, flying alongside multiple unmanned aircraft they didn't know were there, all sharing data and executing a mission plan that was built on information the enemy never had access to. It's not a fair fight. And that's exactly the point. The U.S. Air Force doesn't build aircraft to give enemies a fair chance. It builds aircraft to win, decisively, without question. The F-47, shaped by the ideas that began with the X-44 MANTA over 30 years ago, is the fullest expression of that mission the world has ever seen. Conclusion. So let's bring it all together. 5 features. 5 ways that a canceled concept from the 1990s shaped the most advanced fighter jet in human history. The tailless design that makes the F-47 faster and harder to track than anything else in the sky. The geometry-first stealth approach that makes it nearly invisible to enemy radar. The thrust vectoring system that gives it maneuverability no conventional jet can match. The artificial intelligence integration that makes every pilot who flies it the best informed fighter pilot in any theater. And the loyal wingman capability that turns one aircraft into an entire coordinated air combat system. None of this happened by accident. It happened because the men and women of the U.S. Air Force and American aerospace industry refused to let a great idea die. They took the vision of the X-44 MANTA, an aircraft that never flew, never fired a shot, and they built something from it that is going to protect this country and its allies for decades to come. That is the American way. You take a bold idea, you refine it, you push it further than anyone thought possible, and eventually, you fly it. The F-47 is flying, and the skies have never been safer for it. If this video delivered, drop a like and hit subscribe. It's the best signal you can send us to keep making content like this. We've got a lot more coming, and you don't want to miss it.